I draw your attention to the curious incident of the CIA's man in Miami. But you said the CIA's man in Miami did nothing. That is the curious incident. Joannides is the proverbial dog that doesn't bark. Why wouldn't a diligent and aspiring CIA officer like Joannides, and he got high grades on all of his performance reviews, not report on the efforts of a Castro supporter to infiltrate his own secret operation? Why would he not report on the Amspell claim that Kennedy's killer was a Castro supporter? One possibility is that Joannides didn't know about Oswald's rather minor dust-up with the Cubans at the time that it happened. But after JFK was killed, Joannides certainly knew about Oswald's connection with his Amspell agents, and he certainly had an obligation to report them. But apparently, he did not, at least not in any form that has survived. Unlike Paul Landis, he did not come forward to clear his conscience. He died in 1990. Like a good spy, he took his secrets to the grave. Why didn't Joannides bark? Why didn't Joannides report up the chain of command about Oswald's contact with his network? I think Holmes had the answer. Joannides didn't bark because he knew the intruder. Now, I don't mean that George Joannides knew Lee Oswald personally, although that is a possibility. Joannides did have a residence in New Orleans, and to say anything beyond that would be speculation. But given what we know about Joannides and his job, it seems likely that he knew of Oswald's clashes with the Amspell boys in August 1963. He certainly knew of them when he spoke with Luis Roca and Jose Antonio Lanusa on the night of November 22nd. But for some reason, Joannides didn't regard Oswald as a reportable threat. He assumed, or was told, that Oswald somehow belonged in the stable of CIA operations. As the dog that didn't bark, Joannides was doing what CIA officers do, protecting the sources and methods of a covert operation from disclosure. Now, I'm not asserting that Joannides was part of some rogue plot to kill the president. I see no evidence of that. I think he was an officer in good standing who followed orders and his understanding of his oath of secrecy. He was not a co-conspirator in a plot to kill JFK. He was more likely an unwitting co-conspirator or an accessory after the fact. According to CIA court filings, the denied in full documents in the Joannides file contain references to his intelligence methods that he adopted in January 1963 before the Oswald-Amspell encounters. They concern the methods he used in the spring of 1964 when he traveled to New Orleans while Richard Helms testified to the Warren Commission falsely that the CIA had only minimal information about Oswald before Kennedy's murder. And they concern Joannides' methods when he served as liaison to the House Select Committee on Assassinations in 1978. At that time, Joannides told HSCA investigators Gaten Fonzie and Dan Hardway that he didn't know who ran the Amspell program in 1963, an audacious and possibly felonious lie.
Hey everybody, I wanted to call your attention to one surefire way to deepen your knowledge of the assassination of President Kennedy. And that's to read my 3 books about the CIA, a trilogy of spies that tells how the assassination actually unfolded in the eyes of CIA insiders. You see, my work on JFK's assassination is rooted not in the literature of conspiracy, but in the history of CIA operations. And that makes all the difference when it comes to understanding the events that culminated on November 22nd, 1963. You'll want to check out my 3 CIA books that tell the story of the founding generation of the Central Intelligence Agency and what 3 insiders actually thought about JFK's assassination. Meet charismatic Station Chief Winston Scott as he surveils Lee Harvey Oswald 6 weeks before Dallas. Meet urbane CIA Director Richard Helms as he fends off President Richard Nixon's attempts to blackmail him over JFK's assassination. Meet James Angleton, the ingenious, paranoid, and sinister counterintelligence chief who had controlled the agency's file on Oswald since 1959. In these books, you'll see the real historical foundation of the events that led to President Kennedy's assassination, and you'll understand this event in a much deeper way. Check out my books at jeffersonmorleybooks.com. You can buy all of these books there, as well as my other nonfiction book, Snowstorm in August. So check out the Trilogy of Spies.